Perfect. Yes. Welcome everyone to our webinar on simplifying building management with LoRaWAN. My name is Felix Heins. I'm here from the headquarters of the Things Industries in Amsterdam. I'll be joined in a second by Mario Schröder from Thermokon, who is organizing the webinar today with us. It's part of our running up to the Things conference, which is coming up in the end of September. So we are very excited to bring already partners here on the virtual stage before we will, of course, have a lot more keynotes and a lot more going on in Amsterdam. Before we invite Mario, I've seen already from the signups that we have quite diverse audience here. So allow me to quickly introduce the Things conference and the Things Industries as a company before I give the stage to Mario. Great. So the Things Industries, we are a company providing a LoRaWAN network server. We claim to be a globally leading company on providing a managed LoRaWAN network server. That means that looking at the architecture of a typical LoRaWAN setup, if we go quickly left to right to get everyone on the same page, we would always have a sensor, an end device measuring temperature, room temperature, for example, but many other parameters as well. That would emit a LoRaWAN message to a so-called gateway. Here, the second on the left, which is forwarding that message to the Things stack. In our case, that would be the LoRaWAN network server, decrypting it, formatting it, so it can be easily integrated to building management system, to ERP systems, to whatever applications our customers work with. So the Things Industries here provides exactly that network server, this LoRaWAN management platform. In the middle, the product is called the Things stack, and we deliver that for private networks to any customers, from small deployments to large industrial deployments. Why does it matter? You've seen the simple scheme. But in the end, it gets quite complex as you start running it. So here a bit of more drill down. You can see on the left, you might have plenty of different sensors, plenty of different gateways, deployments, maybe even nationwide deployments, roaming with other networks. All of that has to be handled securely. We want to have insights into the performance of our network, meaning network operations, alerting, what happens if something is unavailable, how can we resend and retry our messaging so that no data gets lost, which is in the end delivering value to our end customers. So all of that you can basically outsource and lean on with the Things stack, and especially the Things stack cloud, where we host and manage the LoRaWAN network server for you. However, there is, of course, scenarios where you would want to run a network server as well on-premise, so on your infrastructure or within your cloud infrastructure. That's, of course, also possible. So here just indicating a few options on how you can run the Things stack and how can you build your private LoRaWAN networks. That is not a mean to an end. It is actually needs a bit of an ecosystem. We need partners for the end devices, for the integrations, etc. One of these partners is Thermokon, who has been an expert in the building management space and in the sensor space. So I'm quite excited to have them today here to share a bit what can we do as a LoRaWAN ecosystem to deliver value within the building management space, which in itself is, of course, already a huge market and a topic with ramping up the demand. So and this stage, over to Mario. Welcome to our webinar today, and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Felix. Thanks for your introduction. Appreciate that we have the chance to have the cooperation with you and have the chance to do this webinar today. Thanks.
Awesome. You have some slides.
I have some slides.
So we will split it into 2 ways. We have about an hour. So we will get some input from Mario now on Thermocon, their great work. It's building up on the webinar from last year as well. If you have any questions along the way, please drop them in the chat. I will take notes. I will interview Mario. Let's get the most out of today's session. So please don't be shy and contribute in the chat. I will be very happy to bring that up. But for now, stage is yours, Mario.
Thank you for that. Yeah, as already introduced by Felix, my name is Mario Schröder. I'm with Thermocon since 2021, and I'm responsible for our LoRaWAN product portfolio. Just a brief information what Thermocon is. So Thermocon is a well-known and well-established sensor manufacturer, and we are mainly serving the HVAC market, but we are also active in all other vertical markets. And 3 years ago, Thermocon took the decision to equip all the available sensors with LoRaWAN technology. That means for our clients, that you can use long-term proven products in a young technology with the experience from Thermocon for more than 30 years in the traditional building management market. So during the webinar, I will give you an overview of the different type of buildings we see every day in the market, typical building management use cases, LoRaWAN integration, and also the challenges to integrate LoRaWAN into a building. And finally, I will answer the question, is LoRaWAN a good choice for building management applications? So let's start with the types of buildings we see in the market. In the day-to-day business, we see 3 different types of buildings. It's new buildings, new construction, existing buildings, and historic buildings. Each type of the building has different requirements and challenges, but all have the same goal. So when we have first a look at the challenges or the requirements, so a new building, the task is to develop the best fit solution of wired and radio technologies. So the existing buildings, we can group the existing buildings in categories based on the technical setup of the building. And the historic buildings have mainly structural restrictions. But as mentioned, the goal is always the same. It's sustainability, compliance, reducing operating costs. We are looking for plug-and-play solutions to reduce downtimes, increasing individual comfort. We would like to have healthy room conditions, and the overall goal is to optimize total cost of ownership. And the biggest potential is available in the section existing buildings. In this section, we have to group the buildings, and we can say there are buildings available which do not have any building management system available. Then we have Group B, which has a limited building management system working. So means there are some functionalities included in the building management system, but not all. And category C is a full functional building management system in place. So on this slide, I have collected just some examples of solutions of different buildings. So as you can see, I have it marked blue. So the requirements and the challenges are different. So modern working, individual functionality, green building concept, a plug-and-play solution, and heritage protection. But the goal of all these different types of building is always the same: reduction of energy costs or cost efficiency. So from that point, we can see different challenges same goal. So now we have a better understanding of the different type of buildings and also on the requirement, on the individual requirements. During the next slides, I will show you just some typical HVAC use cases, which all have the same goal, reducing operating costs and optimizing total cost of ownership. So here you can see a room automation solution for apartments, hotels, airports, offices. And what we are typically do is we have demand-based heating, demand-based lighting, time schedules for heating, indoor air quality tracking. We are also tracking CO2 level to reduce the risk of infection. So when we had COVID, that was a big topic, track the CO2 level to do the appropriate actions to reduce the risk of infection. And when we have this room solution, just to give you a simple example, in case of changing a manual valve actuator to a LoRaWAN-based valve actuator, you have the chance to reduce your energy cost approximately by 30%. Just changing one device has a huge impact when you have it smart instead of a manual regulation. So the other very typical installation in a commercial building is ventilation system or air ducts. So the ventilation system provides fresh air, which will distribute to the air ducts, and the fresh air will provide it in each individual room. So to ensure that each room gets appropriate fresh air, so we need sensors to track the air quality inside the duct and the airflow on the fan. And in case any data is or there's any deviation in the data, so the system will receive alert or we will send a service ticket to a facility manager just to ensure that the machine is working appropriate and the entire building gets the fresh air which is required. Yeah, and the combination out of both use cases, room automation and ventilation, this is more or less the key for the most efficient solution for a building. So when you combine both applications, so you have the potential of most cost reduction. So you increase the individual comfort for each person who's living or working in that building, and also optimizing the total cost of ownership. What I did here in that picture, you can see the blue mark that the sensors, they are in the air duct and in the ventilation system area installed, and the red are typical room automation sensors, just to give an indication that this is just a combination out of both use cases in the building. And when it comes to LoRaWAN, what I also see very, very often beside typical building management applications, I call it add-on applications for buildings. In that case, it's a co-working space. So this building is equipped with sensors for typical HVAC, demand-based heating and lighting and indoor air quality tracking. And we are also tracking the desk availability to provide those data to a software, to a booking software, just to see is the desk available or not. So that means you can easily combine LoRaWAN applications, HVAC applications, outdoor applications, add-on applications for building. So it's pretty easy to combine everything in the LoRaWAN world. So let's have a look at the integration and the challenges on LoRaWAN in the building automation market. So to address the LoRaWAN solution to all different types of buildings, we have to develop solutions based on the technical setup of a building. On the one hand, we see buildings without any building management system. For those buildings, a cloud-based application or a solution is recommended. And on the other hand, we see buildings with well-working building management systems. Here we have to integrate the LoRaWAN data into the existing building management system. So as you can see, there are a lot of complexity in a single project to integrate LoRaWAN in a building. And the two approaches, the cloud-based solution and the integration into BMS. So with that approach, we can address IT companies or the IT market and also the HVAC market. And when it really comes to a LoRaWAN project, the project requires a knowledge of two independent industries. So IT knowledge and HVAC knowledge. And this could create some challenges. And often I see shortages, especially when I'm working with IT companies. They are struggling with some HVAC knowledge, and vice versa, the HVAC companies are struggling with IT topics. And just some examples of what we are talking about. The typical question from IT company, they are looking for the appropriate hardware for the HVAC solution. So who is doing the installation of the hardware and how to integrate the data points into an existing building management system. And the typical questions or pain points from an HVAC company are the IT settings, software as a service, and also IT security. So what we do from Thermocon perspective, so we are not experts in IT, but we are familiar with IT and all the struggles, but we are experts in HVAC. So we act as a, I call it trusted advisor to make the project a success. So we will connect both worlds to help you or to help our clients, partners to develop the best fit solution for for the end customer. Yeah, and we also see some sources of deviation. So every project stage or every field, how do you would like to call it, has failure potential because of the shortage of knowledge. And to develop the best fit solution for the customer and to get the maximum out of the solution and reduce cost at the maximum, we should talk to experts out of each field to use the appropriate product, to install the product at the right place. And we have also to consider that we process the data accordingly and to create the right action out of the data. Therefore, I always tell to my clients, my partners, so cooperation is king. Nobody is expert in hardware, in installation, and in processing the data. Therefore, it's key to cooperate and work with the experts out of each field to develop the best fit solution. Yeah. Is LoRaWAN a good choice for building management? So this is more or less the key question for the entire audience. And it's pretty easy to answer in my point of view. Yes, because we have so many benefits from which the technology provides. There's so much potential for the technology in the building management market. I would like to give you just the key benefits. So we have no wiring, means the installation is very fast. So you need less hardware, you need less working hours. So yeah, pretty easy to install. Maybe you do not need experts to install it because there's no wiring required. So everybody can install a sensor. It's more or less plug and play, bonding the sensor on the wall, on the right position. So we have no intervention in the infrastructure because of the missing wiring. So we can implement LoRaWAN technology on historical buildings and any place. So no wiring needed. So it's highly flexible and scalable, means you can add any LoRaWAN product out of the ecosystem easily to your existing network. So for example, you have your building equipped with LoRaWAN technology, everything is set, everything is fine, and now you start tracking outdoor activities. So parking places, outdoor air quality, flood prevention, something like that. So it's pretty easy. It's plug and play. So we have a high reach just with some gateways. We have the option to cover an entire building, for example, office space, hotel, airport. So it's pretty easy to install the gateways and to cover a wide reach. In outdoor areas, we talk about several kilometers reach. So the technology is highly secured. So it's in 2 ways encrypted. So we do not have to pay any fees for connectivity. So no SIM cards needed. So when you have your network, add a sensor to your network and it will share the data with your application immediately. So minimal closing time. This is a combination out of a lot of key points I presented here earlier. So very important for hotels. So you can close the door, you can install the sensors during the next hour, and the room is still available for the next guest. So pretty cool, pretty easy. And we have a fast implementation process. Means from installing the sensors till having the dashboard, the alert system available takes just some hours compared to a wired solution where you have to renew everything, to open the walls, to put in the cable, to close the wall, to cover everything. So a lot of work compared to wireless technology, which is really easy to implement. Yeah, this was more or less the last slide. I have a brief summary of the last couple of minutes. So what we understood now from the building management market, we have different types of buildings, which have different challenges and different requirements. But all types of building have the same goal. To implement the LoRaWAN solution, we need to know, or we need to have HVAC and IT knowledge to ensure that we can deploy the network appropriate, to install the sensors at the appropriate position, and to process the data accordingly. And to ensure that, my recommendation is work with expert, build up your partner network. So cooperation is king, and each individual solution should be based on the type of the building and based on the technical setup of the building. So just in some cases, maybe you can copy an earlier project. So you have to, work with a building owner on each project to see what could be the best solution. Wired with radio technology combination, just the radio technology. Do we have to send the data into a cloud, or should we use an existing building management system? All these questions have to be answered before installing a LoRaWAN project in the building. So this was a brief overview of the complexity of buildings. So I will be available at the Things conference end of September. We will have also a keynote, and we would like to go in more detail into this topic to answer your questions during the topics you have maybe during the webinar. Please send all the questions to Felix or to my attention so that we can answer it right here or during the Things conference when we have our keynote. So that's all from my side. Hope this was helpful for you, and I could answer some questions you had earlier. And now I'm available for a Q&A session to answer all the questions you have maybe.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Mario. I can see already you not only rebranded, you also showed some more use cases. I like how that is adding on last year's presentation as well. We can see in the chat that people are asking questions. So yeah, feel free now for the Q&A. Even if you have a topic you would want us to elaborate on, just let us know in the chat. We can pick it up. I find it really interesting questions here. I will just pick out a couple and try to group that. Here are some, like, how do I ensure best coverage? So how many gateways do I have in a building? How about like channels on gateways? Like how many devices can I use per gateway? Why not use Wi-Fi? So I think we're already in the deep end of planning such a radio deployment. And I would like to put these questions into a context which you also mentioned, Mario, which is total cost of ownership. I think that is really important as we both focus on large-scale deployments, right? We talk about hotels which have maybe a multiple or even a dozen sensors per room, etc., scaled across every unit. You mentioned desk occupancy, so these could be hundreds of sensors within an office building. That you mentioned as well the energy reduction of 30%. That is massive, right? To reduce costs here. So what we've always been very invested in is how do we the energy reduction, at what price at what investment do I get that? So we want to reduce the overhead of operating such a system, introducing SaaS managed service, so you can forget about that, which is affordable also at scale. Having a support team, having the tools to monitor your deployment, to see if there are opportunities to add gateways. And we see also now a trend towards introducing more gateways to have some sort of redundancy, because the costs of having an additional gateway replaced or installed are so high. There is no available staff to install it, etc. This is especially here in Europe and in the US a big problem, that there is a labor shortage. Maybe you can pick out the Wi-Fi question. I think that's an interesting one. Yeah, we're already sitting in Wi-Fi coverage in most buildings. Why not use Wi-Fi? Why did Thermocon go with LoRaWAN?
So Wi-Fi might be a good option for residentials, but when we're talking about commercial buildings, so Wi-Fi have a lot of limitations. So let's have just the reach of Wi-Fi compared to LoRaWAN. There's a significant difference. So recently we equipped a very, very large office building, and we used 3 gateways. So on strategic points in the building.
Do you know the square meterage, roughly? How many square meters?
Sorry, say again?
How many square meters was that office building? How many floors?
It was 6 floors, and in total, I would say each floor roughly 150 to 200 square meters. So we placed the gateways on strategic points, and we could cover everything. And we have no limitation how many devices we can add to our network. And so when we talk about the security level, it's always a topic in commercial buildings.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. We see that as well, that the changing batteries is a huge cost, huge item in this sum of total cost of ownership. So I purchase a device, Wi-Fi devices are way more energy consuming than LoRaWAN devices. And that might add also to a question here, how often can I send a message? So if you think of the lifetime of a device being anything between 3 and 10 years, and that we have to replace batteries, if I can reduce that from 2 to 1 time, that is a big cost factor, especially across a larger deployment. So you would want to start on the application side. What is the minimum amount of times I need that information so that it is actionable? Yeah, I don't need a once a second CO2 level in my conference room. I will not open and close my windows or ramp up the air conditioning depending on that. So as low as possible, so that the bill of total cost of ownership goes down, and we have to replace batteries, which LoRaWAN, you can easily reach years of battery life compared to Wi-Fi installments. Mario, you mentioned the gap between HVAC and IT. So we are certainly not HVAC experts on our side. What do you think? What are good steps that have happened in the last years which made it easier for HVAC companies to use LoRaWAN, and what is missing from our, let's say, IT side, as you named it?
So we have to make the IT world as easy as possible for the HVAC market, as you can imagine. So nowadays there are a lot of workers in the field who are doing the wiring and everything. And HVAC companies have a big concern to qualify all the workers to bring the LoRaWAN devices into a network. In that point, when they wire the devices, everything is clear, everything has a name, and everything is powered up. And this is more or less one pain point. And in case they do not have an own IT department which can do the LoRaWAN network server and the application server, so they need to have software as a service. And what happens nowadays? They are buying the hardware from a manufacturer, installing the hardware, and everything is in the building on-prem on a controller, and everything stays there. And there's a one-time investment, and software as a service is more or less a black box for a lot of HVAC persons, because they have no experience with that. They do not know how to bill it or to charge it to their customers. So this is a total new approach for this industry.
Great. Yeah, I found that very interesting, because a machine like an HVAC system, there is an end of life to that machine. There is maintenance involved. So there is already a, let's say, reoccurring service provision for having a functioning HVAC system. So it's interesting how that is being aligned, and I can see that this controller thinking translates into some gateway vendors hosting the LNS on the gateway itself, where we then get the feedback. Yeah, we can do that, but we have to limit the amount of devices, so up to 50 devices or something like that, which in, let's say, our cases, we have hundreds or thousands of devices within the reach of one gateway, if we can manage it for them. So I can see how the market is basically limiting itself here. There is a lot more potential if we gain that trust that some services, some managed software services can be outsourced. And I'm having another look into it. Okay, I hear already questions about how to program then the end node. Yeah. So typically, we can configure the nodes. So typically, the firmware is there is no graphical, it's not like an SPS programming of a graphical interface, but nodes would come with their configurations you can set. And LoRaWAN is bidirectional, so we can send commands to a node to reduce, for example, the intervals. It will report measures. So we might not need certain measurements over the weekend when there is nobody at the office. But that is an interesting topic where I've seen it during COVID a lot, that retrofitting existing buildings is a big topic. I've had customers who have shut down entire floors in their skyscrapers because they knew from desk occupancy applications, this is not being used. We don't have to heat it. We can strategically scale up and down our office capacity. And that goes immediately into the energy bill, of course. But I'm curious, do you think that LoRaWAN in new buildings is going to be more and more of a trend?
I would say it could be a combination. So in a new building, it's pretty easy to wire everything. So you have no additional cost. Everything is installed and everything is running over a lifetime in best case. But there are some, I call it add-on applications. For example, the co-working spaces. These are pretty cool and easy to install applications also for new buildings.
Yeah.
Heating is always an option, no matter if it's a new building or an existing building. So, but everything what stays longer in a building for over lifetime. So the recommendation is always to wire.
Yeah, absolutely. But this wiring includes some sort of networking, which can be used for LoRaWAN then in the end. So it would almost make sense to then account for, we basically need internet, not even, to be honest, because LoRaWAN's backhaul is so slow. I also see building management solutions or indoor applications where you would use a cellular backhaul on the gateway. Because the message packages are so small that you can upgrade very easily, and what then also eliminates the need of networking, allowing another device onto my network, which I've set up for it to have internet access. So even with a SIM card in a gateway, you can capture some use cases and can introduce that. And I think that is an already interesting step for HVAC companies to start with LoRaWAN. Because then it's just a question of electricity. You have to mount a small box, an indoor gateway. These can be zero-touch provisioned. Big word for meaning you add electricity to it. If we set this up right from the beginning, there is immediately coverage, and you don't need to do any programming, networking. You don't have to code anything, as here in the comments already. What is mentioned. That is how are HVAC companies typically starting, or what do you advise to HVAC companies? How can they get started with LoRaWAN and that portfolio? It's like, do they have to hire someone for that, or who in the company is best suited to get started?
So to get started, best would be to reach out to one of the LoRaWAN companies who are doing sensors or who are acting in the LoRaWAN market to set up a proof of concept, to see how easy it is to deploy LoRaWAN and how easy it is to save money and to reduce costs. And then they have to take the decision, do they need their own infrastructure in the building to set up the entire LoRaWAN or a digital solution program, or they have to work with partners. As I already mentioned, collaboration is king. So you cannot be an expert in hardware, in connectivity, and in data analytics. So therefore, it's key to partner up, as we are doing. We do not have any experience with connectivity, so that's your business. And together we can create best fit solutions, because everyone is in each field an expert, and this is the biggest benefit of the customers. So yeah, to answer your question, so they have to take the decision, hiring people, experts out of the LoRaWAN field, and running it in-house or working with partners.
Yeah, and I think when you mean hiring, then you need someone who can run a server, etc. If you don't want to buy in that service from the things industries, for example. Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that is also I see you on different trade shows. I see the conversations you're having, and that is actually a really good starting point. We get a lot of requests for different applications, but we are more than happy to refer them then to vertical partners, to industry partners like Thermocon. As you mentioned, we can only have 10 years experience with LoRaWAN. The technology is not that old, but to have the 30 years additional experience in the market is then invaluable, and we cannot catch up.
And that's the point where we jump in. So we can help companies out of the IoT market to set up the building appropriate, where to place the sensors, how many sensors are needed to cover the room appropriate. And this is our consulting approach. So and on the other hand, we have the well-established measurement equipment. We just added LoRaWAN technology to existing sensors. So we didn't develop any new sensor because we would like to play in the LoRaWAN world. We did it vice versa. We had the sensors, we just added the chip, and everything is running for decades in the market, and it's well established and approved.
And that shows also a bit the approach, right? Like, we are in the field of solving technical solutions, which clearly are motivated by some business background. But in the end, you didn't throw out your wired sensors. You have both, and there's each of them have their right of existence. So for us, it's to find the best fit for the actual setups. I get some questions here about security and the backhaul. I think here as well, like, especially if we look into the application side, there are some very specific questions which I'm happy to answer. If you send us an email to info@thetingsindustries, we can pick that up when we talk about protocols on gateways. But in the end, it's also a little bit of like, show that it works. So we can show some reference projects where LoRaWAN has been tested and is in the field, like, it's widely used. This is not a niche technology, and it has been very thoroughly assessed also from a security point of view. What Mario said, it is at least once encrypted across the end-to-end solution, usually multiple times. So there is definitely it's battle tested. Let's say it like that. Also, yeah, the Things conference would be a great point where you can come and then talk to Mario about the applications, what sensors, where to install sensors. I mentioned you had quite in-depth questions about about where to install a sensor, how to get the most out of your installations if you invest all that money. That is really, really interesting. And then at the same time, you can talk to experts on the gateways, on the LNS, on the integrations. One interesting question I see popping up here is, do we have what is currently done to integrate then back into from the server back into the building management system? How would you suggest doing that?
So we have developed with a partner in converter, which the converter has to be in the same network as the gateway is, and we learn in the devices into the converter, and the converter is doing the conversion from LoRaWAN into Modbus and BACnet 100% automatically. And when I talk about 100% automatically, means the end customer or the facility manager sees the LoRaWAN data points at the same level as a Modbus or a BACnet data point. No differences and no programming work. It's just implementing or adding the devices to the converter, and everything is done automatically. So this is the way we integrate LoRaWAN data points into existing building management system. It's a small industrial PC which is doing the work, and it's easy to install, easy to implement the devices. That's the best way in our point of view to integrate LoRaWAN into an existing building management.
How do you see the trend then to go via MQTT to outside of the building network? Is that coming up, getting more or less? Or
are you talking to a cloud, to a LNS? Or?
Yeah, for example.
Yeah, so it depends of the technical setup of the building. Often I see I receive requests from facility manager which have a building management system running just for heating, and they need to add CO2 or monitoring. So in that point, it wouldn't make sense to send the CO2 data into the cloud and that the facility manager has to run two systems. So we integrate those values into the LoRaWAN or into the building management system. But in case there's nothing in place, so I always recommend to use the cloud-based solution. So you can work with partners and software as a service. So you have no struggle. You have to buy the products, install it, and
I'm really curious how this will evolve, because I'm thinking as more HVAC companies and systems integrators get involved, they will also start shaping the requirements on our side. So as new, we need more reliability. We want uptime of 99.9% for our systems, which you cannot guarantee if I have a machine on a customer side hundreds of kilometers away, maybe. This is an extremely valuable feedback also to our ecosystem. What is needed? Where do we want to do? How do we want to deploy it? We know, of course, total cost of ownership, make it as cheap as possible to implement the end-to-end solutions. But that's definitely also the type of conversation we want, and we can have even more at the Things conference. I see questions already about tickets. We will launch. We will have some deals around, so you can definitely check out the website. We will share the link in the chat. Maybe I don't know, Thermocon. We can check there as well if you're a partner of Thermocon, how you can access the Things conference, maybe with them as well. And we can, if you've signed up to the webinar, or if you want to sign up now, in the beginning of next week, we can share some information of what we talked about here today with everyone. So, for example, some slides, some additional information on how to go forward. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, perfect. The link is now in the the comment chat. What Mario, when we go for it, so I'm like in the shoes of a new. What use cases do you think have the biggest impact within a building, which are no-brainers to start with? Is that the thermostat? Because I mean, 30% energy reduction. I think that's like what would be typical builds. These are like tens of thousands of euro in savings. Is it?
Yeah, sure. So the first step would be the thermostat. So that's pretty easy and very fast to install, and improvement is huge. And then the second step is measuring the room temperature on the wall, not on the valve, tracking CO2, VOC, humidity. And also what a big topic is the air duct and the ventilation system. So when I have a look at all the commercial use buildings, you do not have the heaters on the wall, so cold air and warm air comes through the ventilation system. So it's always good to know the air quality level in the ducts and what comes out and goes in. So this is the information the machine needs to work most energy efficient, and to ensure that all the rooms in the entire building receive the fresh air which is requested. So yeah, as already mentioned, you can scale it. So month by month, year by year, when you have the next idea, your next improvement, you can add it easily to your existing network and make your building, your application smarter step by step.
What is a typical project cycle? So if I say, I want to do a proof of concept, I buy one sensor, one gateway, I install it, I test it. With delivery times and all of that, how long would it take me to install a few hundred devices on a customer side?
Depending on the site, but the installation is pretty easy. So I would say to install thermostat takes up to 3 to 5 minutes. The more often you did it, the easier it is.
Is it a plumber or?
Say again?
What type of personnel do I need? Is it a plumber who needs to replace something?
So you can do it by yourself. So okay. It's just open a screw and closing the screw. So this is more or less when you need the experts. Is more or less when you use the data to integrate the data in the to the LoRaWAN network server, to processing the data, to create time schedules. But for those, we have also partner in place which have applications available where you can use widgets and to do everything by some clicks. But it depends on the company, on the end customer, what he would like to do and how the IT department is equipped.
Yeah.
But in general, the installation is pretty easy. As mentioned, you have no wires. You can bond the products to the wall. Or you have to open a screw and replace a product. So it's really pretty easy compared to a wired technology. But you need also the backend. And this is IT stuff.
Yeah. And then talking about new laws coming up, is this only the commercial incentive is great. How big is the pressure now with sustainability laws coming in that you will not be available? How urgent is it to install monitoring or control systems which are maybe not in place yet?
Very important, especially in Germany. We have several laws to reduce energy costs, reduce energy consumption, to get more sustainable. So the LoRaWAN is a pretty good technology to hit all the requirements, to fulfill the requirements, and to avoid any fees because of not having the data available.
Yeah. Can you very specific, like, do you have an example of a new law which came out in Germany, and what do you have to do to be covered? Let's say one very typical example.
So we have Gebäudeenergiegesetz and the ESG law. So you have, for example, you have to display the CO2 footprint, and in case of having no sensor and no dashboard, you have no chance to display it. You have to display the energy consumption for heating, that you have a time schedule behind, that you use energy only in case when it's needed. So is a room empty, no heating is needed, something like that. So yeah, in the near future, we have to display everything, or have to be transparent, and therefore we need data points. Therefore, we need IT infrastructure, and due to the key benefits I mentioned on the last slide, my point of view is LoRaWAN is the best technology to use in commercial buildings to hit all the requirements and to achieve savings.
Yeah, I agree, and I can see that as well. Like, now that we have customers who are over years working with LoRaWAN, they install one network based on, we call that an anchor use case, a very obvious need which can be solved with LoRaWAN. And because you have that coverage, then you can just upgrade and you try to get more return out of your existing network. So yeah, you can see that, and you can see that also in every year that people are very curious about, okay, what new applications, what new sensors are available. We have the Wall of Fame, which from year one was always an attention magnet, trying to see, okay, these are sensors which are available today. They are commercially at scale, can be provided through distributors. And then, if I have a network already, I can basically upsell that. And I can upsell also into my existing customer base. So find the anchor use case, roll out the network, and then with partners, with maybe even feedback to the ecosystem, I'm sure Thermocon is listening carefully to their customers of what is the next use case which needs to be covered by LoRaWAN sensors. And maybe how many of the sensors you currently have are LoRaWAN enabled, or is it just a generic connection, and any LoRaWAN, any sensor Thermocon offers, you can also have with LoRaWAN?
Yeah, right. Besides the room operating units, but we are working on that to get also all our room operating units LoRaWAN qualified, but from room sensors, industrial sensors, outdoor sensors, each sensor is also available with LoRaWAN technology. The industrial sensors come with battery and also with 24-volt power supply. So depending on your application, you can select battery or a 24-volt power.
Yeah, exciting. Then you can use it even, so you have local wired networks, which are then also additionally controlled via LoRaWAN, for example, from a central facility management unit, etc., right?
Yeah. So I saw there's a question related in Ocean. So the difference is the reach and the data packages. So for LoRaWAN, I wouldn't recommend time-critical observations. So this is more for in ocean or wired technologies, but the difference between an ocean and LoRaWAN is just the reach and the data packages.
Yeah. No, indeed, like LoRaWAN has some latency. So if you hit a light switch, you might not want to wait a second for a reaction. Again, it's a technology, it's a tool. What I found interesting what we did last year, and also together with Thermocon, is we created a partner portal which has a business case collection. So we've compiled a full list of use cases which work technically and commercially with LoRaWAN. So looking at that overview, and we can share the link in the chat, you can basically check my customers. Do you see any use cases, any problems which are being solved with solutions from that list, which my customers have? So it's a really easy way to get started and to see if LoRaWAN is a good fit without having to understand all the details of LoRaWAN as a technology. So be inspired. I can only invite you to also reach out to us by email. You will have our emails as part of the follow-up to the webinar. So even if you joined via YouTube only, please use the sign-up link to get all the information. And of course, we are more than happy to welcome you at the Things conference in September, where Thermocon will be also present on stage with a booth, with a full team. So yeah, explore what LoRaWAN can do. Reach out already, and then we can plot the next steps together to make LoRaWAN part of a portfolio and to save some energy at least. Perfect. Mayo, any last words before we wrap up?
Oh, it was a really good wrap up from you. So I would just say thank you for your time to the entire audience. And in case of having any questions, or as Felix mentioned, you will receive our email address. So send me an email or stop by at the Things conference. Really happy to meet you in person.
Perfect. Then enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll talk soon.